3.63 seconds. That is the gap from pole to back of grid. Last year, 1.14 seconds. Nearly tripled. But buried in these numbers is something Mercedes didn't expect. Ferrari is faster on race day than qualifying. 3 races into 2026, the picture is clear, a grid cracked wide open. The qualifying spread is 3.63 seconds per lap. The race pace spread is 3.60 seconds. Last year those numbers were 1.14 and 1.52. You have to go back to 2017 to find a grid spread this wide. Under new power unit rules, every car uses the same 350 kilowatts motor generator unit under identical FIA energy limits. The hardware is identical. The variable is software. Mercedes wrote software that spreads the power evenly. McLaren, running the exact same power unit, did not. That single choice in Brackley in 2024 explains the gap. Mercedes dominates. Kimi Antonelli, 19 years old, leads the championship, the youngest ever. He took pole in Shanghai and won China and Suzuka. George Russell won Melbourne. Mercedes has 1-2 in 2 of 3 races, a 45-point constructors lead, and fastest power unit. At China, Mercedes hit 335.5 kilometers per hour. They ended a 4-year title drought after 2022 to 2025 in the wilderness. But here is what should concern the paddock. McLaren runs the same Mercedes power unit, identical hardware, yet sits 0.8 seconds per lap behind the works team. The McLaren drivers are lifting and coasting 3 times per lap in certain corners, running close to 450 horsepower less than the Mercedes cars. The issue is software. Mercedes figured it out. Everyone else runs out of battery before the straights end. This is super clipping, the single biggest reason the 2026 field is spread so wide. Picture a driver at the end of a long straight. The engine does its job. The car speeds up. But the electrical 350 kilowatts meant to kick in alongside the engine has already run out. The battery is empty. The driver watches rivals pull away in the final 300 meters because his car is being pushed by half a power unit. Mercedes cars pump out power all the way to the braking zone, every lap, every straight, every qualifying run, every race stint. Here is Ferrari's hidden advantage. Ferrari is second, 0.56 seconds per lap behind Mercedes in qualifying. But in race pace, Ferrari's gap shrinks to 0.53 seconds. Ferrari is closer to Mercedes on Sunday than Saturday. This pattern repeats every weekend and should not happen. 3 teams consistently go faster on Sundays: Ferrari, Cadillac, and Haas. After Suzuka qualifying, Ferrari drivers described a bizarre problem sounding like a software bug. They're faster through corners than rivals. Then on the straight, the software picks up a tiny input, a foot shake on the throttle. Any small mid-corner correction cuts electrical power on the next straight. Data from Suzuka shows that a single slide at the spoon curve cost the car 0.148 seconds of pure power drop on the straight that followed. Not from the slide itself, from the software. A driver faster through a sector is punished for being faster. The software sees aggressive driving as the car being out of shape and protects the battery on the next straight. The car rewarded for finding time is instead robbed of it. In qualifying, where drivers push to the limit, every lap sets it off. In races, managing tires and fuel, power spreads across the stint instead of spiking. Ferrari's qualifying weakness fades. Race pace shows up. Before Japan, the FIA cut qualifying energy recharge from 9 megajoules to 8. It did not work. Ferrari still qualifies third on average, races second. That 0.5 second qualifying gap is not Ferrari being slower. It is Ferrari being held back by a rules quirk the software engineers at Maranello are still trying to solve. The 2026 grid splits into 5 performance tiers. Tier 1 is Mercedes alone. Tier 2 is Ferrari and McLaren, 0.5 to 0.8 seconds off. Tier 3 includes Red Bull, Racing Bulls, Williams, Haas, and Audi, roughly 1 second off. Tier 4 is Williams with slight variation. Tier 5 is Aston Martin and Cadillac at the back. Remarkably, the running order barely changed across 3 very different track types. Mercedes first. Ferrari and McLaren behind. Red Bull in the pack. Aston Martin and Cadillac last. Every weekend, The order is baked in. Red Bull sits sixth in the Constructors' Championship with 16 points. Max Verstappen, a four-time world champion who won the title 5 months ago, is ninth in drivers' standings. He went out in Q1 in Melbourne, retired in China, and failed to make Q3 at Suzuka, the first time since 2015. The defending champion qualifies where Sauber drivers used to. This is Red Bull's worst season start in over 10 years. They are 0.97 seconds behind in qualifying, 1.26 seconds in race trim. The problem is not the engine. In 2015, the Red Bull RB11 was 1.18 seconds off, with the gap thought to be 80 to 85% power unit, 15% chassis. In 2026, the Red Bull Ford power unit, called DM01, holds up fine. The RB22 matches or beats Ferrari for top speed at all three tracks. The engine is not the problem. The car is. The RB22 is the first Red Bull car built almost fully without Adrian Newey in the building. Newey announced his exit in May 2024 and left for good at the start of 2025. Chief Engineering Officer Rob Marshall had gone to McLaren in January 2024. Sporting Director Jonathan Wheatley left at 2024 end for Audi. Will Courtney left for McLaren. Christian Horner, who ran the team 20 years, was let go in July 2025. Helmut Marko left at 2025 end. Chief designer Craig Skinner left in February 2026. Gian Piero Lambiase, Verstappen's race engineer, follows to McLaren by 2028. Over 18 months, Red Bull lost the technical director, chief engineer, sporting director, head of strategy, team principal, driver advisor, and chief designer. 7 people who built 4 straight titles gone. The result: low drag, low downforce design, fast in straights, hopeless in corners. A car Verstappen himself called a midfield car. Aston Martin tells a darker story. Lawrence Stroll's billion-dollar Silverstone campus signed Adrian Newey in 2024 as shareholder and managing tech partner. Newey started in March 2025, promoted to team principal for 2026. This was supposed to be their year. 3 races in 0 points. Fernando Alonso's 18th place at Suzuka was their first finish. The AMR26 is the slowest car at several tracks. Newey arrived too late. The new wind tunnel did not come online until April 2025. The AMR26 model did not enter the tunnel until mid-April. Ferrari and Mercedes had been running their 2026 models in tunnel since January 2nd. The team was starting 4 months behind on aero work. Under a rules reset, 4 months is the difference between knowing and guessing the car. They missed the first 100 design choices. Worse, the Honda HRC power unit has severe shaking. The battery pack has been described inside the team as shaking itself to pieces. At China, Alonso took his hands off the wheel because shaking caused hand problems. At Suzuka, Aston Martin was 20 to 30 km per hour down on longest straights, the motor generator unit basically not working turns 3 to 6. A 2-time world champion, 44 years old, taking his hands off the wheel of a Formula One car mid-race to protect his health. That is not performance, safety, happening every weekend. Honda admitted the problem. The engine runs near limits. It cannot be turned up. The shaking indicates underbuilt energy recovery. Aston Martin only found out in November 2025, 2 months before rules started. Too late. Aston Martin's gap grew 2.29 seconds per lap from 2025. Under a rules reset meant to pull the field closer together, one of the teams that was expected to be at the front has fallen 2.29 seconds further back than it was last season. That shocks because it shows how badly this went. The season paused. Bahrain and Saudi Arabia were cancelled March 14th. The next race is Miami on May 1st to 3rd. Teams get 3-week break to rebuild. For Mercedes, a gift to lock the lead. For Ferrari, a test of solving energy before Miami. For Red Bull, time to decide on RB22 philosophy. In 2017, a similar gap actually shrunk by roughly a second across that season. The teams at the back caught up. The teams at the front locked it in. The running order that looked set in stone in March was bending by July and unrecognizable by October. For 2026, not whether Mercedes wins, they will. But whether Ferrari solves energy before summer, whether Red Bull fixes a car designed without its designers, and whether Aston Martin extracts more from a maxed-out Honda, the data says this is the most split Formula One season in almost 10 years. The data also says it is only 3 races.